Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim CEO show. This is the place for you if you want to become an amazing leader and grow your business or organization to the next level. We do this by learning from those that have been there, done it, and bought the shawar kameez. Today, I am your host, Mohammad Arshad, and your brother, and I am honored to have with me the amazing Ali Sajaad. Assalamu alaikum, Ali.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, Mohammed?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very excited, actually.
Good.
Very excited to see you and to, inshallah, to speak to you for the next hour or so, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair for joining me on the show today. Now, I'm super excited to have you on the show. Now, there's loads of reasons for having you, apart from you being like a really good friend and all those kind of reasons. But the reason I'm really excited is because you've accomplished something that so many people, they dream of it, but they don't actually do it, which is to build a successful business, and then the best thing about it is quit your job. MashaAllah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. So before we get into the story, before we get into how you did that and all the kind of gems and things you're going to share with us, what I wanted to ask you is, what was 10-year-old Ali like?
10-year-old early, gosh, that's subhanAllah, okay, so that what, 27 years back. So, the beauty of this question, Mohammed, is that my mother's downstairs. She's come to stay with me for a few days. So I think if I brought her up, she could probably give more of an accurate answer. So, okay, I'm going to be really honest. The 10-year-old Ali was, there's not much I remember about me being 10 years old. That's because truly I was just a regular kid. The one thing I will say is that, and to be honest, I can say this now, but I was an absolute terror. I mean, subhanAllah, I was a bad kid. I was fighting with all my siblings, and I was known, even now in the circles amongst my family, my aunties will come out and they'll start telling me stories. So, honestly, I was surprised my parents didn't put me up for adoption, because I was really bad. But the irony was, I was as bad as I was at home. I was angelic outside at home. So you take me to school. If I came to your house, I'd just be sitting there, just smiling. But I was really bad. So, in terms of characteristics-wise, yeah, not the best of kind of children. When I mean bad, I just mean kind of just behavioural issues. I had severe behavioural issues. I used to fight with my siblings, quarrel with my parents, and but then at the end of the day, I used to just sit there in my bed and just think, great, that was a great day, you know. I caused them grief. I mean, if you come to my parents' house now, you'll find that the locks on the doors upstairs have been removed, and that's because of me, because I used to go and lock myself in the room after maybe hitting my brother and then run in the room. So they started removing the locks on the doors. But putting that aside, in terms of just a kid, wasn't very academic. I didn't enjoy school. I'm very shy. But to be honest, I had everything I needed. I came from a background where my father was a taxi driver, worked in the factories before. Mother was a housewife. So a regular kid, but nothing inspiring. And in terms of, you hear all these stories where children at 10 were opening up businesses or selling coffee, and not coffee, sorry, lemonade stores. Nothing. Yeah. I was drinking the lemonade, and I was honestly, I was very short and I was very round. And then
that's the opposite of what you are now, basically.
It is, subhanAllah, yeah. And I think it's probably an experiment gone wrong, because I just went tall and thin, So it's. But I was just a regular kid, To be honest, I'm not going to kick myself too much, but nothing inspiring about me at all. But
do you remember what you wanted to be at that age? Like, do you remember what you wanted to do when you grow up and stuff?
Yeah. And my mother still reminds me of fireman. I used a fireman. I probably, I loved Fireman Sam. I'm not sure if you can remember that.
Yeah, of course.
But for me, just being a fireman was something, and the achieving thing is my son wants to be a policeman or fireman as well, even without any prompts. So maybe it's just something there. But yeah, it is in the blood. But in terms of just a fireman, but I really had no ambitions or vision or strategy about anything in life. I'm just going to be brutally honest. I wasn't really an inspirational child, and we'll probably speak about this later. Hence, the 37-year-old me now really feels as though I'm playing catch up. And again, we can go into this, but I think because I really did very little up until the age of probably 25, 30, I feel as though I've got many years to catch up.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So right now, obviously we talk about you as a 10-year-old child. We're going to go into what happened between then. But just kind of tell us a little bit of what's going on with you right now, because you've done amazingly well, mashaAllah, tabarakAllah, to build a business which is doing, which has done over 6 figures per month. mashallah.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about what's the situation, what kind of business are you in, and then we'll go into the journey and stuff as well.
Okay, cool. So the business is called Sash Vitality. So we are a health and wellness business, and we specialize in kind of organic and natural health supplements. Predominantly, majority of our sales are on Amazon online. We have our own store as well. But we have just kind of gone into the niche of herbal supplements, which are there as alternative medicine. Again, we're not against medicine, but it's another option, and it's kind of stuff which really helps people's health and kind of benefits them. So at a crux, that's what the business is.
Okay, fantastic. And we're going to get into the story as to why you started this and the health and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I know the story already. But just tell me a little bit about university. Did you go to uni? What did you study? What kind of first job did you get? Tell me a little bit about your background and career, because you're quite corporate and normal in that sense.
I am definitely. I'll just go all the way back if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So no, I'll probably just start at high school if you don't mind. So in terms of high school, I always had an inclination towards business studies, and that's really is because I wasn't really intelligent enough to do any of the kind of sciences, right? As per majority of the Asians. But I had an interest in business. But GCSEs I did okay. I think I got something like 5 Bs or 5 Cs. Again, average kid, right? Nothing amazing. So school was okay. I kind of enjoyed it. Had a good group of friends. Moved over to university. So did A levels, and I did business in A levels as well. And I think I was probably one of the only individuals in my family to do business studies, and still to this day, I don't think really anyone has done business studies. So maybe the writing was on the wall. Then it's something which I loved. I tell you one thing, I did exams. So you do A level exams. So I did 5 exams for that. So I got for business studies, I got 4 A's in 4 modules. Then I got an E in the finance one. But as you'll come to hear my story, numbers aren't the best for me. So I went to college, did A levels, I think 2 B's and a C. So again, average, nothing amazing. But then that got me into university. So I studied at Aston University Business School. I live in Birmingham, born and bred in Birmingham. So for me, that was just down the road. Absolutely fantastic experience, and that's university itself, but maybe not the educational side of it. I mean, I had a good time at university. I mean, for me, the university kind of side of it was defined by the Islamic Society, because I just started practicing at that age as well. So I reckon at the age of about 19, 20, I started practicing. So for me, the Islamic Society just brought around a completely different identity and a whole world to me. And coincidentally, I was studying as well. So for me, it's the business computing degree, which I did went fantastically well. I pulled out a 2-1. But the experience at university for me was just phenomenal. I mean, it was the first time. It was kind of a bit like a Malcolm X moment, to be honest. I met different Muslims from different backgrounds. When he went to Hajj for the first time, only today I was listening to the letters of Malcolm X, where he said he saw white people, black people, different backgrounds, and for me it was an eye opener. Kind of the Hanafi, Shafis, Malikis, Hanbalis, we were Muslims, and for me it was a complete eye opener. So university was probably the single most best experience I had at that time. And studies wise, I did the studies. Again, I didn't really enjoy the studies, but I kind of got through it. In terms of after that, then I graduated in 2006. Graduated in 2006, and I went straight into the corporate world. So effectively, what happened was I went into a consultancy company, and I really didn't want to work, but I just got married as soon as I left university. So at the age of 25, I got married. And then I went into consultancy for, it was about 10 years. So it was the same company, but I had different clients ranging from BBC, from TNT to Eurostar. So I did software testing, but truly never fulfilled. I just did not enjoy the work. It paid well. I'd work my way up, but then every day I'd come back and think, I really don't want to be there. But I got some fantastic experience there. So in terms of the core skills of kind of business, in terms of liaising with people, working with people, I got some good experience there. And I travelled a lot. I went through from London through to Bristol, through to Scotland, back into Birmingham. So in terms of the experience was great, but I never truly enjoyed it. And I think that itch was always there, which was kind of a catalyst for later on me moving on and kind of leaving work. But that was my experience to work. Like I said, I had years, I've had 10, 12 years of corporate experience, which is fantastic. And as you know as well, when you have a business, you always need a backup plan. So for me, if I ever need to go back, alhamdulillah, I kind of, I have my avenue there to go back to because I've got 12 years of experience there.
Okay, amazing. So you mentioned about not being like fully fulfilled at work and purpose. Like, tell me a little bit about what was that situation?
Yeah, Muhammad, we, as Muslims, we're always told to do everything with ihsan, have clear intention. And even when we're at work, we have, our employers have rights over us. So honestly, I felt as though I just really wasn't fulfilling that right. You get to the stage where some days you get to work and I'll be there in body, but in terms of in terms of actually doing the work, I would get it done, but there was no fulfillment. And you can kind of tell when you're not excelling at work. So I'd get there, I'd want to quickly get back home. I would be doing the minimum to get away with it. And I, effectively, I could have done so much more. And I got to the stage where I was just getting out of bed to go to work was becoming a bit of a chore. And I was like, SubhanAllah, I was like, this really can't be the way that we live our life. I honestly, and it sounds quite melodramatic, but I think once you get to that stage, you kind of understand. I felt as though I was trapped. And this is the crazy part, Mohammed, right? I was working for about 10 years. And within the first year, I disliked work. What happened is my first year, I was traveling to Oxford every day for 8 months. So you're talking at a minimum, it was 6 to 7 hours a day in the car for 8 months. You're talking
Wow.
continuous, right? That was my first job. And I was really down. And the only reason I did that is because that year I was getting married. And so, it was either kind of, cancel the wedding, or basically do that. I sacrificed a lot for work. I did a lot of work and I put as much as heart and soul I could into it, but I just really wasn't fulfilled. And I think, if I'm really honest, I really came from a background I think a lot of brothers kind of face this as well, and sisters, is that you come from a practicing environment, from the Islamic society, from the ISAC, from the Muslims in your household. Then out of nowhere, you're propelled into an environment where there's majority non-Muslims, right? Who are beautiful people, nice people, absolutely no issues, but it's a complete alien environment. So you go in there, the issues of shaking hands, the issues of, going out to drink, the issues of salah, subhanAllah, even doing wudu sometimes was quite a stressful experience because I was just, kind of practicing then, amount of times I prayed in the car park, right? Not because I was embarrassed to pray, it's just I didn't really know how to approach that issue, and there was nowhere to pray, and it was quite stressful, subhanAllah. So you put all those things together and you think, it's not for me, right? It's kind of, you're just put into a completely alien environment and it's not something you're used to. You're outside of your comfort zone, your cocoon, and, it was something which I found very difficult and challenging. And I think in the latter years, I became more comfortable with that environment. But that, it took years. And I think it was just that initial shock, which you're not prepared for, subhanAllah. It's just like finish university, go straight to work. And then you've got John, Joe, Jack all around you. And like, wow, okay. It's kind of it's a bit kind of, I find it very challenging personally.
It's an amazing thing, actually, because you're so right. But I've never actually viewed it that way, where, it's true that when you're in university, you're in a very comfortable environment with school. Most of us that go to school in inner city places, the Muslims are usually the majority, or the black and ethnic minorities are the majority, right? And then from there you go to the workplace, which is the exact opposite. So it's true, like being propelled in that environment is very, very difficult. So like, obviously, like there was a huge stint where you actually worked from home a lot as well, right? So you kind of overcame that whole thing and you got to work from home in a corporate job. So in a way, that was like a really nice setup, no?
100%, yeah. I mean, to be honest, the setup was fantastic, and I have to thank Allah because I've been very fortunate, Mohammed. So just quickly, when I got my first job, within I'd say about 4 to 5 months, I was home based, right? I mean, still having to go to client sites, and and I was one of the first ones at that time as a graduate to get. I know it sounds like something small, but like a phone and a laptop. No one ever got one. So I think Allah was really kind of, the path of me leaving work was set years back, right? I say as soon as I started work, I can see now how Allah was setting me up. Basically, I was home based then, and for I'd say of the 10 years I worked, 7 years were probably fully home based. Just the way it worked out. But it's still the element of logging in when I used to put my username and password in, I just can't do this. But I think it's just the aspect of doing work which is not fulfilling, because we're always told that whatever you do, it should be something that you have some level of enjoyment in, because I found that because I wasn't engaged in it, I was doing the minimum, and it's not good, right? SubhanAllah, you have to kind of give your all, because ultimately we will be accountable in front of Allah for the things that we did and the things that we didn't do that we should have done whilst people had rights over. So it was stuff like that which really kind of used to kind of play in the back of my mind. But yeah, as a setup, I was home based. If I'm completely honest, I even they paid for about 4 or 5 years my food, my bills, my car petrol, my apartments were paid for. I even lived in a penthouse. Right,
Wow.
to be honest, I didn't know what a penthouse was. I didn't know what a penthouse was, until I moved into one. So, in terms of being comfortable, right, Mohammed, I was completely comfortable. SubhanAllah, I had very rarely any costs, and we laugh about it, but after about when I first came back, I used to live in Warrington for 3 years. I came back to Birmingham. Me and my wife went out shopping, and because we were never used to the prices of food, because it's all paid for, we were like, wow, is that how much butter really costs? I was comfortable in that sense.
Why was it all
Just
paid
money
for?
and
What do you
kind
mean
of
it was all
dunya
paid
alone.
for? I don't understand. What do you mean it was all paid for?
So basically, because I was home based, as soon as I leave my door, I was basically all my expenses are covered. So I stayed away for 3 years, meaning that all my costs would be covered. So we used to do shopping, not really look at the prices and just receipt everything at the end of the month.
Wow, amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so so this is
yeah,
so this is even more strange now, because most of the people are like in a very difficult situation and they're trying to move to a better situation, right? Your
yeah,
situation sounds like it was great in every sense, but like you mentioned, the whole purpose thing was missing. Now, obviously, a lot
yeah,
of people probably don't know this, but you were actually instrumental in setting up, for example, Al Maghrib Institute in Birmingham, right? I remember
mm,
that's how we actually met. Like, you were part of the
yeah,
original team that started it, mashallah,
yeah,
and you're also the Amir for Birmingham at one time as well, right? So, like,
yeah,
I guess on one side you were doing that kind of work, which I'm guessing was more fulfilling and more purpose-driven type of
yeah,
work, right? And then, like most of us, going back on Monday mornings, back to the job,
yes,
and thinking the weekend was
yeah,
great at Al Maghrib. Like, what are we doing here during the week?
yeah, yeah.
So, did that play a part in the whole purposing, or because someone might say, well, you were doing that stuff as well, so maybe that should have fulfilled your purpose, and you should just stuck with the cushy job.
And I think it's because, Muhammad, it's the, I know this is, I don't want to sound like a cliche answer, but it's the flexibility and the freedom you have when you do your own thing, because ultimately things were comfortable. But, comfort doesn't always kind of mean that you're satisfied in life, right? And I really wasn't when it comes to work, because, I still had to be told what time I start work, what
Mm.
time you can eat lunch. You know, I was praying Jummah and then running straight back to work, right? Meetings at 2 o'clock. I was told what time I had to work until what projects I had to work on. So, to a certain, I'm not anti-working in the corporate environment, but I had, flexibility of choice over my life, right? So you're told what to do, when to do. Yes, you might get your food paid for, but I just couldn't, that element never really stuck, kind of sat well with me. And I think, do you remember at the start of the call I said I really had a slow start to life. Honestly, I feel like up until 20 years old, I was really just plodding along. A bit of a pleb, right? Not, just getting on, not causing any trouble, just kind of, just going with the groove. And I think, everyone's different, but I think, I realized at the age of like 25, 26, there's some sort of a calling to life where I can do much better. And I think it's, and we can talk about it more, but do you remember Nishiro, right, Sheikh Hamad Sharif?
Yeah.
We did many years back. For me, that was the catalyst to make a change in my life. And to this day, I still remember and refer back to that. And you always have something. And for me, that was that one thing, which was Nishiro, which I thought, subhanAllah, I need to do, and I can do something more.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, Nishiro was something that was like, it was exactly the same for me. I'd definitely say it was a catalyst. So that's
Yeah,
amazing that Alhamdulillah. And again, that just shows that when you give for the sake of Allah, then Allah gives you like much more, right? Because Nishiro would probably never
yeah,
have happened for us if we weren't involved in Al Maghrib in some way, you know? So I think that's
100%.
like amazing that you gave for the sake of Allah and that came from it. So let's fast forward a little bit. Tell me a little bit about, so how did this whole business start and where did it kind of go from there?
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so like I say, I love to give kind of kudos. So Nishiro was where I'd say all the journey probably began, right? And, at that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it's a case of, there's some catalyst and, kind of the ignition was kind of started then. I have to say, though, about 15 years ago, there's one uncle who, you'll probably hear a few times in amongst the conversation. He had a computer shop with his brother, so two of my uncles. So the first people that I've kind of seen in my family who have got some entrepreneurial spark. And they had a computer shop, and it was fantastic. So just when their PCs had come out, they started building, selling, providing support. And I used to help out on the side. Still not much of an entrepreneurial spark in me, but I used to go just hang out with my uncles, right? So that was the first time I'd kind of seen business in action, right? And then I'd say about 2015, my uncle, he started getting into eBay. So I think eBay once upon a time was big. I'm not sure. Or and he was selling quite a few things. And he was saying to me, listen, Saj, you need to basically just do something online, just get onto eBay, just kind of sell some stuff, because he brings stuff over from China and effectively kind of sells it. And, it was beautiful, Mohammed, because I remember a call. I was in the office in Bristol, environment agency, and I was speaking to him, and he said to me, listen, I've got some hooks and they're selling very well on eBay. He said, listen, you take them off me, I'm not going to charge you, you make all the money, just start something, like subhanAllah, and may Allah reward him, because you don't get very many people like that. He said to me, they're my best seller, but you take them. He said, just to get you, just do it, right? He could tell I was hesitating, so I didn't take him up on the offer, but I was like, listen, you know what, alhamdulillah, the fact that you've kind of said this, I said, fine, so put a bit more of a bit more fire in my belly to kind of do something, right? And at that same time, I heard of quite a few brothers kind of dabbling in the Amazon game. I knew nothing about Amazon, absolutely nothing. And I have to, and this might be a bit controversial, what I say next, but you don't mind controversially in this show?
No. Go for it.
You're cool with it. Okay, so I'm not really. I always disliked the element of basically people selling trainings when they in terms of the Amazon training, because there's a lot of Muslims kind of selling kind of the trainings, and a lot of non-Muslims selling it, and I always disliked it because I never really thought that anyone doing that was fully transparent and honest and giving you the information that you needed. So I refused to pay for training, not because I was tight, I just refused, because I was like, listen, there's no way they're going to be telling me all the information I need. So I called you about 3.5 years back. I'm not sure if you remember that call.
Yeah, I do remember.
And when I first started, and I'm not sure if in your voice I could remember thinking, oh, it's just another guy that just wants to burn my time, right? But alhamdulillah, you gave me time, and kind of you gave me advice, and you started me on that journey, because I just need to speak to someone, and you said, bismillah, go for it, right? And alhamdulillah, it's may Allah reward you, and you've kind of been like an unofficial mentor, right? Because I've kind of just grabbed you anytime I need you, and you've helped me. So you started that catalyst off there, and I spent 6 months, Mohammed, reading. I didn't do nothing else. Reading everything I could find on Amazon, online. I found everything from Google, right? Literally, I didn't pay a dime for everything. I had, you sent me a link actually for amazing.com, a 6-month free trial back in the day. You probably don't remember. So being the kind of player I was, I never really utilized that, but I managed to do one free training on there. And I remember the guy was saying, he was talking about supplements, right? He was going through the supplements on Amazon. But at the end of the video, he said, do not go into supplements. It was really ajib, subhanAllah. He's like, don't sell into supplements because it's too restrictive, too much kind of red tape, and you're not going to make any money in it. And then I was like, interesting, right? And that, for me, that validated my point of when you pay for trainings, they're not really going to kind of give you all the information that you need. So I spent 6 months looking into that. And I initially, I'm not sure if you know, there was a brother and me, we were looking into passport wallets from China. So basically we started doing all this Alibaba stuff. So we found a supplier manufacturer in China, and then we found out that she was basically just trying to rip us off. So I was like, okay, I'll probably give this China stuff a miss. So that probably kind of wasted about 2 months of my kind of life when it came to kind of looking into the Amazon game. I think then January 2016, one of my nieces, Jasmine, so she picked up leukemia. So, and it's quite serious. It was very serious at that time. Alhamdulillah, she's made a full recovery now as of last year. So she had leukemia. And I started researching into alternative medicines, things like what could we do to help her? Because we knew with the chemotherapy, her immune system gets weaker, and whatever you can do to help without using kind of prescription drugs, I thought, could help her, right? So I started looking into that. started looking into that, and then at the same time, I was still doing my research on Amazon. And I was like, subhanAllah, you know, there's a bit of a market here for things
Mm.
like kind of like these kind of herbal medicines, right? And I started looking into turmeric, right? Do you remember haldi?
Yeah.
And you
Okay,
know, so
you know where I remember Haldi
yeah,
from? Like
haldi.
those, when we used to watch Bollywood movies as a kid, there used to be this advert where they put Haldi
Yeah.
on the lady before she get married and stuff. Is that the same thing? Yeah.
It's it's crazy because it's gonna make you look like Donald Trump. So I have no idea what. So it's crazy. So then I started looking into kind of turmeric, right? And I was like, you know, there's a gap here, subhanAllah. You know, there's a real gap. So I started researching the manufacturers. So, you know, you have to understand, Mohammed. I was working full time. I think at that moment I had two kids. I was married. You know, we were traveling quite a bit as well. So, you know, it wasn't at a point where everything was consistent, right? You know, I had a lot going on in my life, but I think that burning fire inside to kind of really leave work really pushed me because I had a lot of late nights. You know, I'm not one that sleeps late, but I had a lot of late nights and I sacrificed a lot of time and effort because the underlying thing I was reading from the development books was you sacrifice a lot of time initially and then you can automate it later on. You know, that was true. So, you know, when it comes to business, you know, I need to put it out there because I've spoken to a lot of people. I think a lot of people think it's just straightforward. It's probably one of the most toughest things I've you know ever done in my life in terms of getting it off the ground. Times, energy, the fatigue that it's taken. And later on, I do want to kind of discuss about kind of mental health in this kind of space as well, because I think it's something which isn't really discussed that much. Maybe if you remember, we could touch upon that as well. So I basically then started. I found some manufacturers, and I manufactured my product. Now this is the key thing, and I think I'm not going to turn this into an Amazon training, but because I want to sell that for a course later on. But but what I did was I effectively tweaked my product to ensure that it was different. You know, a lot of people now will go on and they'll just get the product and do the same product, same service, and offer no value. Right? We were one of the first. Actually, we were the first that was fully organic, Soil Association certified black pepper, turmeric on the market because I decided from the beginning, right, Mohammed, I decided my product is going to be complete quality, you know, forget cutting corners, it's going to be UK manufactured, I'm going to get all the certifications, it's going to be vegan, organic, and I'm going to do everything with ihsan. Alhamdulillah, we launched April 2016, sorry, August 2016, and that was the start of Sash Vitality. And you know, it's amazing. I mean, I still remember, and they always say the first sale. I vividly remember the first sale. You know, it came through, and I'm so happy because that just validates the months and months and months of effort put in. Right. So I know there's not much I remember, but I remember that day, subhanAllah, and it was amazing. But yeah, that was the start of the kind of inception of Sash Vitality, which was basically, you know, it's the start, you know, kind of just it was just a case of testing the markets on that, you know, but it kind of blew up and we saw success very quickly. And I remember speaking to yourself and other brothers, and you did say, and I remember, you know, it's just say Alhamdulillah, because not very many people see success so quickly,
Yeah.
so soon after launching, and it's business is up and down, but we, like I say, it just came boom, and it's like, wow, okay, so it's you know,
I
that's
think,
what it's like to open a business, right? So we were quite fortunate.
yeah, I mean, for me, it's quite interesting because I got to see your whole journey, right? From the first time you like showed
Yeah,
interest till the point where you kind of, you know, got to six figures per month and then even beyond. And I
yeah,
think there's some really, really like just listening to your story, people should have a lot of hope because the type of guy you are, bro, is very different to a lot of the kind of guys that go out there and make that money. So just like you've kind of described, like you know, you're very
mm,
stable. I would say you're risk averse, right? You're not that type of like take big risks and risk it all and all those kind of things, or you weren't at the start, right? And I think that
mm,
when I look at your story, it's really like one of those ones, you know, where the tortoise and the hare, right? Where the
yeah,
tortoise actually wins the race. Because, you know, in my day, alhamdulillah, I was very successful with my first product like yourself and on Amazon. And a lot of people would come and ask me advice. And every time they came and asked me advice, I would have the same spiel that I would give to them, right? Which is, if you're just looking to make a quick
yeah,
buck and this and that, forget about it. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. But if you're serious about adding value, if you're serious about
yeah,
becoming like proper entrepreneur, becoming really good at internet marketing, all this stuff, and you want to make it your life, then do it, right? And so I had that conversation with you, and then I was like, I don't know, is this
Yeah.
guy going to be one of those guys that just kind of talks to me once and then they go off and do completely something else or what? But what I found with yourself is that you were very, very methodical, right? You took your time with stuff. And of course, you were coming back and forth
Yeah.
lots and lots of different times. But generally, like, you were looking at something, like, for example, I remember the days when you came to me and we discussed Jungle Scout, right? Like, you looked at Jungle Scout and then you went into it fully and you analyzed it and you dealt with it and then you kind of did everything to a level of mastery that I think a lot of people don't do. And obviously I got Muslim mastery, so I love like things like that where people have ihsan and they do things with a high level. And you mentioned that ihsan was one of those things, right? Which is again like contrary to what a lot of the entrepreneurs are like today, where they just like kind of quick, wham bam, thank you ma'am, done, and just get it out there type of thing, you know. So I think that that whole kind of story, the way your story has been very, very interesting. But you know, you saw success very quickly, alhamdulillah. Like I said, a lot of people, when they pick their product on Amazon, some people, it takes them, you know, 5, 10, 15 products before they see any success. And you
Yeah.
saw success very, very early on. Why do you think that success came? Alhamdulillah, obviously it's all from Allah, but like, was there something different you did in the way that you kind of chose your product or anything like that that you feel might have given you that edge?
You know, I think it goes back to I really did do my homework. You know, honestly, I mean, obviously, let's put the external environment aside for a second. In that Amazon wasn't as challenging or saturated then. This is 3 years back. But I think I really did my homework because there's one thing which, honestly, you know, I'm quite proud of, if I'm really honest, is that, you know, I did about 6 months worth of reading, right? Every time I read a new paper or a new piece or even a blog article, right, I did some action there and then. But honestly, straight down, you know, I'm just going to be honest as to how it works. So, for example, a lot of people will read, okay, open your Amazon account, do X, Y, Z. When I read open your Amazon account, I went and I opened my Amazon account. Right? I did it there and then. And someone is saying, okay, search for manufacturers. I was like, fine, listen, pause everything else. I search for manufacturers. Then it's kind of like, look, do some branding on your label. I stopped everything and I did the branding on my label. So I was very methodical and I did everything as it should be. I never rushed anything and I didn't take any shortcuts at all. And I think, you know, subhanAllah, you know, I was making a lot of dua as well, because for me, I think the fact is, when you don't know, you don't know. What I mean by that is there was no fear for me in that, because I spent about £2,500 launching that product, right? And back then I was like, subhanAllah, wow, you know, it's a lot of money, right? But looking back, it was penny. So I'm very risk adverse, and you have to understand that I was quite relaxed about this because I was still working full time, right? So I didn't just throw everything in. So I was quite methodical. So what I did was I've got a job. I'm being paid okay. It wasn't amazing, wasn't bad. So I've got income coming in. My family's set up. Children are happy. Wife's happy. Parents are happy. Everything was fine, right? And then I was doing this on the side. And my wish was always that once I get to a level where I can get enough money to sustain me, then I'll leave work. So I never rushed anything, and I didn't put pressure on myself. You know, it was really fun then, because it was like, you know, something brand new. And I think that's why, you know, I think I saw success quite well, because I just took my time. You know, I've seen a few people now launch some products within like 1-2 months, they're done, and then they fail, and they come back to me and like, you know, but we did what you said. And I was like, you know, but you just did the same old, right? And that's when it comes to business, you know, it's, you know, you can't just throw the same old out there. And I'm seeing people still doing that now. You know, it's just kind of, you know, let's just copy and let's just throw it out there, and we'll make some portion of the pie. But it doesn't work like that. His consumers aren't that dumb, right? They want to see something which is superior quality, right, or something of a, you know, of a difference. And when I went in, I refused to do the same product. Like I said, we were the first ones. We were the trendsetters when it came to kind of that area when it comes to organic turmeric. So, you know, I think because we did things differently as well, I took my time. There was no stress, so I didn't rush. I think that's why we saw success. And like I said, all success comes from Allah. But I think, you know, that was a model product launch for me, to be honest. You know, and I'm really happy with it. SubhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah. And you know, one of the other great things about yourself is that, mashaAllah, tabarakAllah, not only did you, you know, get to that point where you were doing over 6 figures every single month, but you've actually kept consistent with that as well. So it's not one of those ones where you did over 6 figures 1 month and then after that it's kind of been here and there. Like, you've managed to kind of do that consistently. How have you kept to the consistency?
Yeah, Mohammed, it's been a challenge, right? It's been a challenge, but I think, you know, once you understand how things work, then you can replicate it. It's kind of straightforward. I don't really want to kind of just focus just on the Amazon, but basically the Amazon platform is such that once you have success in one kind of range of a product, if you're keeping to that kind of niche, then you can just kind of replicate and just kind of branch out into different areas. So what we've done is kind of just use the same kind of formula and just kind of bring out more products as well. And remember, you have more experience then, so you kind of understand how things work, you understand what doesn't work. And it's not that difficult once you're in there to kind of replicate the success and to get continuous success. It has been challenging, and like I say, but alhamdulillah, we've been quite consistent. I agree with you, to be honest, and I think that's been a lot of hard work as well, though, and it's been a lot of hours, a lot of research. Even to this day, to launch new products, it's still a lot of research and a lot of work. So none of that kind of subsides. All that subsides is that you automate things kind of so you don't have to spend as much time once the products are launched. But I'm not an expert, but I think I know this area well enough now, and you keep the ear to the ground, and it's very important that you keep on learning. I may have seen some success in Amazon, but I still read articles, I still go to trade shows, and I still ensure that I'm speaking to the right people to ensure that the opportunities are out there. So it's forever a learning experience. As soon as you stop learning and take your eye off the ball, that's the day that you may as well shut up shop. And to be honest, you'll see the sales have dropped, the business will close down because you become lazy, and so you always have to keep your eye on the ball, to be honest. And like I said, always keep on learning, and it's continuous.
Okay, amazing. I mean, we're going to move away from Amazon in a minute, right? But I just wanted to ask you something that probably comes to people's mind even now, is that I remember I went to Amazon America. My brother wanted to order something for the US, for a friend in the US. And when I went there, I went to the product and I saw that every product has tens of thousands of reviews. Almost every product, right? And then I was thinking, I wonder, is it still possible to launch a great Amazon product which makes you tens of thousands of dollars per month, the way we did, where we only spent a few $1,000s or a few £1,000, and get that success? Is it still possible to do that stuff today?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Okay. Tell us about that. Or how?
Now, I've seen some products, right? And with no reviews, they'll come on and they'll probably make 20-30K a month, right? And the thing now is, and I have absolutely no issues in sharing these secrets, is that now it's a case of basically people are influencers, brand ambassadors. It's all what happens off Amazon, which brings a success. So what you're seeing now is that the people are creating an audience. They've got that audience ready. And as soon as a product comes on, irrespective of whether you've got reviews or not, you have an audience ready and boom, you go there. People are using ManyChat now to create flows, to get rebates back, and then later on asking for reviews. People are basically having influencer and brand ambassador platform software set up, where you've got people, you may have 1,000 ambassadors. Ambassadors are those people that love your products, right? So they're not influencers. Influencers are those that you pay them money and they'll do anything, right? They go into a cliff edge and they'll hold your product and they'll jump off if you want them to, right? Brand ambassadors are those that love your product and are raving fans. People have these guys ready. As soon as a product launches, they go, boom, there you go. And they flood the marketplace, buy the products, and then reviews come. So these are just a couple of tips, right? We've not used them that much, but things like ManyChat is something which is at the forefront now, where you see people building out, and it's something which I'm just starting as of this week. And to start building out a ManyChat flow to automate the whole process of kind of getting fans, building a list off Amazon, which is basically using the Facebook bot to build your list in ManyChat story, then have that list ready for when you do a launch. Because Amazon are very impressive. As you know, basically, they kind of they don't give you any of the information which is yours. They take a lot from sellers, and it's a great platform to make money, but not a fantastically ethical platform to kind of work with. But this is where people need to do their homework, Mohammed, right? A lot of people come on and they'll just switch on marketing and they'll try and get family and friends to do review, and they're just not, if I'm honest, I think the onus is upon people like myself, and I'm going to put it out there, right, and others, to kind of help others and be more transparent and open, because, ultimately, Mohammed, I know this is a difficult conversation, but our risk is our risk, right? Nobody can take away my risk, right? So if I tell you my secrets now, nobody can take away what was due to come to me, right? it's impossible, right? And I understand though the need to have some sort of protection over your business. Like if somebody came to me now and said, "Give me your manufacturer, give me X, Y, Z, this, that," I
Yeah.
wouldn't give them all that information. But I think we have to give back. And I think you mentioned in one of your posts a few days back that one of the keys to your success was that you gave, and every time you gave your time, Allah gave more. And I think as entrepreneurs, as Muslim entrepreneurs, you look at the Ansar and Muhajirun, when they came together and they were basically, they were like kind of brothers, right? And they once said, "Here, take my wife," and he's, I've got two wives, let's split the wives, and here's my money. He just said, "No, just show me where the marketplace is," right? And I think we do really need to kind of support more people. I think those that do quite well, they don't support as much. And if I'm honest, that's one of the reasons why, Mohammed, I really dislike the aspect of when someone's quite successful and rich, then people flock to that person and they're kind of like there with their hands down to him. "Can you just give me this tip?" And I refuse to do that. I'd rather not make a penny than do that, because I think Allah has honored us and has given us the ability to do that ourselves. So I think definitely the opportunity is still there. The marketplace is more challenging, but it's not saturated. If anyone tells you otherwise, then they're lying, because you can just look at Amazon at the moment. It's growing day upon day, probably second upon second. But you have to be much more clever and nuanced as to how you launch your products. I've been on Amazon for 3-4 years, but I struggle as well now. It's challenging, right? Nothing is easy. But I think, for these youngsters, Mohammed, right, who know Instagram, who know TikTok, these guys should be out there smashing it. Honestly, I've spoken to all these youngsters, and they not a single one of them heeds my advice, but these guys could launch any product on Amazon and do fantastically well, because they know how to get the audience there.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah, I think it's a very good point. So you're basically saying that Amazon is definitely a huge opportunity. The fact that it's growing so fast, it's always going to be an opportunity. But the game has changed. So it's not like in the old days when we started. I remember I started like 5 or 6 years ago, and that was like ASM3, I think. And at that point, It was like you would just choose a good product, you put it on, and you get your friends and family to do a couple of reviews, and that was it. You were off, type of thing. So it's not that anymore. But you're right that if you know how to build an audience, it doesn't matter if you don't have any reviews. If that's your product and you've got an audience, you can sell that product very, very well. So I think some really, really great advice there, mashallah. What I wanted to ask you, last question regarding like this whole business side of things, and then I want to move on to leadership quickly, is that what did it feel like to kind of give your notice into work? Like, how did that feel?
No, Mohammed, that was amazing. I think I messaged you, right, when I gave my notice, because I haven't really got very many friends, and I think only fun have. I'm not that risk averse, right, Mohammed. So I think I officially gave in my notice September of 2019, but I was off from work for 2 years. So I took my workplace was amazing, subhanAllah, props to the environment agency, absolutely phenomenal place to work at. So I said to them, "Listen, I want to take some time off work, because if I'm honest, it wasn't fair that I was spending more time in the business and working, because I wasn't giving work my full kind of effort." And I was like, "This is just not right, honestly, I would just, it's, again, we're going to be accountable to Allah." So I was like, "Listen, okay, I need to take some time off. I just want to go away." And they said, "Listen, take a year off." I said, "Fine." This was in 2018. I took a year off, and then I came back after a year, and I said to them, "Listen, I think it's time to leave," because the business was doing well then, so I could take the same salary that I could and kind of be quite comfortable. And they said, "Listen, don't leave," because alhamdulillah, I'd kind of performed quite well for them, worked my way up, and they said, "Take another year." And I was like, "Okay, cool, okay." And I only did that just to keep the relationship and to keep the bridges, because they were so good to me. So I went back in September 2019. And I said, "I really need to leave now." And they said, "No, take another year off." I said, "No, man." They're like, "Listen, don't leave, this, that." And I was like, "Listen, I just can't, And so
hold on,
September
let me just get this
2019,
right.
I kind of,
They're saying, like, you took a sabbatical because you were like, rather than leaving, let me, like, get a year off type of thing, just in case things don't go well, I'll come back. And then at the end of the year, you're like, "Look, things are going okay, I'm going to go." And they were like, "Stay." So when they're saying to you, "Stay," they're not even saying stay at work, but just give us the hope that you might come back. Is that what they were saying?
Yeah. And they were. And I think that's just because, we had a good relationship. And to be honest, I think for these workplaces, remember when somebody leaves, the cost of acquiring a new person that's got 7-8 years of experience to train them up, it's quite a high cost, right? So,
right.
And they were just a good workplace. They said to me, "You can take up to 5 years off unpaid," and I was like,
Wow, amazing.
So, but that's a sign of a good workplace, right? Where they'll cater for your needs and they understand that you have kind of other needs as well. So it's fantastic. So I gave him a notice and it was beautiful, man. And it's just, whatever happens in the next 10 years, right? Allah knows best, right? Because, I'm a practical person. I don't know, I can't tell the future, right? So I don't know whether I'll be in this business in the next 5 years or 10 years, but I thank Allah that at the age of 37, I could have at least one retirement. Whether I go back into work and do a second retirement is different, right? But to have that is phenomenal. And I think it's one of the points which I probably miss is that, once you start making money, right, Mohammed, money becomes irrelevant. And this is just me being honest, right? Allah knows best, right? I could just be making this up, but it becomes irrelevant. What becomes important is your time and the freedom. And I just felt fantastic. The fact that, I just want to add the caveat because I think, a lot of people over-egg this. I do work long hours still. Honestly, I work weekends still as well. And that's the caveat I have.
So you don't do the 4-hour work week then?
No, it didn't quite work out. I got to 3.5 and I thought I was just taking it too easy. So but I work hard, but the freedom of having to work when I want. I wasn't feeling too good Monday. I just took a day off, right? I can log in anytime. I can finish anytime. I take my kids to school. I can go to my parents until I want. If I just want to take my wife out to breakfast, which doesn't happen often, just by the way, I can take her out. Something simple as going to the doctors, right? You don't have to book time off and things like, Salah. My local masjid is down the road, right? I can jump there. Jummah, I don't have to run back. And subhanAllah, it's been phenomenal. Just that freedom is been something amazing. And, I thank Allah for it because I think, once you've tasted this, you can never go back to previous lifestyle. It's just impossible.
Alhamdulillah. You know what? I talk about the job. Like gangsters talk about jail. I'm like, they're never going to take me back alive. They'll have to kill me before I go back to my job like that, because it just does feel like that. But may Allah keep it that way for you. That's amazing, alhamdulillah. And it's wonderful to see brothers and sisters, mashaAllah, doing that work. So one of the things I would say is that, anyone that makes that kind of jump, for me, they're a leader. And I think with you particularly, obviously you were the Amir of Al-Maghrib, and you have been a leader. So I just wanted to understand, like you mentioned Nishiro and all that stuff, like what is leadership for you? What's your experience of leadership? And just tell me a little bit about leadership for you and someone maybe that inspires you in regards to leadership.
Yeah, so, when it comes to leadership, Mohammed, I'm a bit different, right? I think, every single person, right, becomes a leader whether they like it or not, right? So you've got different kind of facets of your life. So when I got married, I became a leader within my home, right? I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I had children. I became a leader, whether I wanted to accept the responsibility or not. I became a leader, right? I think, just to clarify from your perspective, when you say leadership, are you on about leadership in business, or are you just on about you just want me to just give my definition of leadership? Because I think a lot of people focus just on the business side, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about general leadership, like for you.
Yeah. For me, to be honest, Mohammed, I think leadership is about collaboration, right? And what I mean by this is it's always about, because we always talk, right? You read some of the books that you tell them what to do, and what makes a good leader is that they do what you say, and kind of you have the respect. And I think there's elements of that, right? But I think it's very dynamic based upon the certain circumstances there are. For example, my parents have become older now, so I've kind of become a leader over them. So they're less able. But I'm not going to be assertive to my mom and say you best do this, right? I know best, right? But back in the day, the roles have changed. Likewise with my children, when there's more empathy, there's more love, there's more kind of mercy in that relationship. It's not assertiveness. Yes, there's certain circumstances when you're assertive, but I think leadership, honestly, it changes based upon your circumstances. So, for example, with work, I have some freelancers I work with, so it's more about me giving them clarity and being assertive in knowing that they understand what they need to do. So I really think it's about working with the people and the situation that you have, because you'll have instances on the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, that people came up to him and they asked him to give some advice, right? And some people he'd say pray, some people he'd give sadaqah. So depending upon the circumstances, he'd give them different advice, right? And the greatest leader that man has ever seen was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? He didn't just kind of just have an assertive nature and just go around giving orders, right? He tailored it. And I think, and I'm still trying to find out the reason why, but this is what Allah has kind of done for me. But I've been in positions of leadership for years, to be honest, and I've never sought them, right? And Allah is my witness, right? When I started practicing, I was the president of the Islamic Society at Aston University. And that was because I had the longest beard, right? And that, there was no other reason, right? Then I became the Amir of Al-Maghrib Birmingham. And then, alhamdulillah, I kind of went around and opened some of the UK expansions as well, and some of the European ones. And then I did Impacted Al-Maghrib, which is their kind of putting their knowledge into action. And that was 15 cities, and we managed to open up in across 5 countries in the space of about 6 months. So alhamdulillah, that was quite cool. Then I've got stuff in the business as well. And I really have found that, kind of leadership is really about adapting to the circumstances. But I think a lot of it has to do with the element of basically hikmah, right? Is basically doing things in the right time at the right place based upon who you're speaking to. I don't really read many leadership books, to be honest. I do a lot of kind of personal development. But for me, I've been in a lot of roles, but it really depends upon the people that you're working with and the situation that you're in. And you really have to be adaptive as a leader. In the corporate world, it's different, all right? You're taught, kind of certain skills, what it takes to be a leader, and that's in that environment, right? But I think you take those guys out and put them into, our environment, they'll never survive. Literally, it's either, either they'll completely be, they just wouldn't survive. So for me, it's just about adaptation to the circumstances and the situation that you're in. And again, I'm not a thought leader when it comes to leadership, but that's just my kind of 2 cents on that based upon the experiences I've had.
Okay, amazing. And who's the leader that kind of inspired you or inspires you?
I have to say, Sheikh Mohammad Sharif is someone who I've looked up for years, honestly. From the Niche Hero days, from when he started up, Al-Maghrib, and then he went, then he's got Discover You. And, I love him, Mohammed, because, he just doesn't really care what anyone thinks, right? He just doesn't care, right? He'll do what he wants to do. He's someone who basically, you just want to be around him, right? Someone who has that influence, and you're kind of sitting with him. You're like, subhanAllah, he's got something about him, right? He's kind of a good personality, and he's achieved so much in his life. How many leaders have we heard just kind of bark orders, right? But he's someone who basically has kind of achieved so much in his life, right? A true leader, right? Who kind of, inspires others, but has kind of done it himself as well. So, for me, he's someone who I just love. I really still do kind of, I don't really do much Facebook stuff, but he's on there. I still follow him. And I just think, subhanAllah, for the Muslims, he's a bit of a gem. Not very many people probably had that contact that we've had with him through Niche Hero, but I think, fascinating individual. I know you know him personally as well, so hopefully you can kind of agree with what I'm saying or not.
Yeah, Niche Hero was a big thing for me. I think Sheikh Mohammed Sharif is definitely one of my top inspirations. Funnily enough, I was speaking to him yesterday or the day before, because he's coming on the show next week, inshallah. So that's going to be amazing to kind of get his view on leadership and all this kind of stuff. It's really, really amazing. But I agree with what you said, that not only does he not care about what people think, but he's achieved so much. One thing I think he's done really, really well, yeah? Check this out. I was at Al-Maghrib at the weekend. They had the Fest, which is like a big conference, around 2,000 people there, right?
Yeah.
Most people, what they struggle with is actually setting something up successfully and then walking away from it, right? And he has done that masterfully with Al-Maghrib, to the point that if you went to some Al-Maghrib students today and said, do you know Sheikh Mohammed Sharif? They'll be like, who? We don't know who that guy is, right? Yet, Sheikh Mohammed Sharif has set up like such an amazing faculty, an amazing level of instructors, amazing people behind to actually run everything that he does, So I think it's a real, like, what he's done, 100%. People don't understand. And I probably won't say this on his one, but like he's been a true pioneer in the way that he's used marketing to further the dawah, to further Islamic studies. Like, in those days, like when we were starting out, when we were kids and stuff, no one did a poster for a talk. The way it worked is you had 5 lines of text telling you about the talk, right? But now you have every single man and his dog doing like proper posters and trailers, and this is the man that started it off from a dawah perspective, So I think, like, it's a great leadership kind of example that you've given, mashaAllah, tabarakAllah. So one other thing I wanted to kind of talk to you about was, like, just general hacks and things, because you've been in business a lot. You're one of those guys that goes deep into topics. You learn a lot about it. So like people that are out there that want to be better leaders, people that want to actually grow their business, grow their organizations, like what kind of tips, tricks, techniques do you have that you can kind of share? Do you have anything, any advice even
So,
that you
Mohammed,
can
you're
share?
talking about hacks. Sorry, I just cut off there. So just
Yeah, I
general
mean,
hacks to grow the business.
it could be hacks for the business, but also it could just be general advice, because like there's a lot of people who probably are watching the show and thinking, I would love to build my business. I'd love to have the freedom that he said. I would love to worship Allah in the way that he's kind of saying you're able to when you're not at work, and I'd love to hand in my notice and do all that kind of stuff, right? So what's the advice that you have? How can they accelerate that? What kind of tips would you give them?
100%. Okay, cool. And Malcolm, can I just there was just one more inspirational person which I think I
Sure.
have to mention, if
Go
that's
for it.
okay. If you're cool with that before I go into the hacks and
Yeah, of
tips.
course.
Yeah. So obviously we've all heard of Sheikh Al-Muslim, and I think currently I think you've not got more of an inspirational leader that is there for the Muslims and beyond, not just for the Muslims, right? Because mashallah, the beauty about him is he's there kind of championing the cause for any injustice a person that deserves that, right? And to be honest, I think it's amazing, right? He's put himself upon harm's way to try and make life easier for everyone else, right? And I think it's phenomenal. Allah's blessed him with knowledge of the religion. And not only that, but he's a man of action. So, he's someone I love for the sake of Allah. And I think, he's someone that if your children were to follow him and look up to him and see the work that he does, you change the kind of dynamics of the ummah, right? So for him, I think, he needs a mention because he's a true inspiration for me.
Amazing. Jazakallah khair. Yeah. I think, one of the
Yeah.
things that I specialize in with a lot of du'at, I've done a lot of training for people in relation to confidence, right? And so I
Yeah.
love the stuff that Sheikh Umar Suleiman is doing around being a confident Muslim, because I think that's what we as
Yeah.
Muslims need, especially living in the West, to be confident about our religion, to be people who are working with non-Muslims and still be confident about being Muslim and practicing our religion. So I think
Yeah.
it's an amazing example of leadership again, of someone actually taking the path which is difficult, but it's the path that we have to go down if we want to be successful Muslims in the West. So
No,
it's amazing.
100%. Okay,
Amazing.
fantastic. Excellent. And just going back to your question then. So, Mohammed, I'm not going to mention hustle. As I just said it. So, I don't really like I really dislike the buzzwords. There's a standard which is hard work, sacrifice. You can get that from any kind of textbook, right? So I'll give you some of the tips from my journey, which are kind of real, kind of things which I've utilized in my life. And I think the first thing, Mohammed, is have you read the book The Morning Miracle?
Yes, I have. Yeah, great book.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, it's all taken from the Sunnah, right? Let's be honest, right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of getting up early in the morning and things like Qiyam and Tahajjud. It's nothing revolutionary, right? But the book is phenomenal, and I think the experience I've had with a lot of brothers mainly is not very many people are willing to sacrifice that time in the morning. I'm a complete morning bird. When I was at university, Muhammad, I was sleeping late, waking up late. What a disaster, subhanAllah, in terms of, I was tired, I was lethargic, but it was just every youngster is doing the same thing now, which is, why do you sleep at 2 a.m? Just, Emma, just catching up on a few things and this and that. And it's destroying us. Just, going back into some of the kind of area that we're in, do you know that things like lack of sleep, chronic stress can cause an early death, right? Because your body needs to rest, subhanAllah, right? So for me, one of the biggest tips I can give is get to sleep early and wake up early. Like yesterday, when I was tired, I went to bed at 9:15. No shame in saying this. I was in bed. Part of that is to do with the fact that I'm 37, 4 kids, mashallah, so kind of I do kind of get worn out throughout the day, right? But I get to sleep most days now. You have to adapt it because the days are getting longer.
Yes.
So you have to be quite intelligent. So, but I'm in bed early, Muhammad, and I wake up early. And we don't do yoga, we don't do meditation. We have our time with Allah, right? Because as someone who runs a business, honestly, if you don't get that time in the morning, it's going to destroy you. Like, your days are very challenging as they are, right? So you need that time just to make dua for that day. Forget looking at the day after or the week after. You need to sometimes get through that day, right? And you always need that support with Allah. So I get up early, and whatever I need to do then in terms of my reading or my Quran, I try and get done in the morning. For two reasons. Firstly is because of the barakah in the morning, and the second reason is you might not get time throughout the day, just being honest. Once school starts, you get the school runs. I'm one of those people that when I start working, I need to focus. So it's not easy for me to start working and just, if I'm honest, just put open the Quran, read for 2-3. But it's difficult. I need to kind of set times out. So in the morning, we have to start. For the brothers and sisters, you have to start out early. And when you master that, you can feel the barakah in your day. Honestly, it's kind of like, sometimes you do stuff and you're like, wow, okay, it's only 11 o'clock and I've done all I have to do, right? And this is not because of us, right? It's because Allah has just basically put barakah in your day from the off, right? So it's basically get sleep early, get some sleep, right? And these are all basic things, but, this notion of working till 12, waking up at kind of 4 in the morning, starting work. People read all these things like Warren Buffett wakes up at 4 in the morning, but he's probably going to sleep at 4 in the afternoon, right? You just, we need to be a bit more subjective. We need to be a bit more intelligent and nuanced when it comes to kind of reading all these stories. And I think that's something which kind of has worked for me, which is the early mornings, getting up, right. Secondly, at a very base level, Mohammed, it's basically doing lists and having post-it notes, right. I absolutely love post-it notes, right, and that means they're all over my desk, all over my computer. What I do is the night before, I will kind of have a top 5 things which I need to do for that day. And what I do is I'll write them down. So when I get up in the morning, I've got the list in front of me, and that way it's organized, right? So you take out all that kind of, all that thought and that thinking, and you put it on the post-it note and you get it done. You get some organization, right? Because you can't go into the day second guessing what you need to do. So spend a few minutes then before, get those post-it notes, get those lists in place, and then put them and just go through them, because the most satisfying thing after pulling a scab is basically crossing off that something off that list. It's great, right? You sit there and you kind of you take it off. So that's kind of my second one. And the third one, because I think I'll just give bite-sized one, is basically people have to read, Mohammed. I'm not going to go in hard because it's taken me many years to get where I've got to, but I now find pleasure in reading. Honestly, I never thought I'd be saying this, but reading books. And I have to say one thing, right, Mohammed, read the books that interest you, not what others basically are interested in, because Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharif, right, Mohammed, he recommended 2 books about 3 years back, right? I think he did a post online. The worst books I've ever read in my life. They were so bad. So, I just couldn't get through them. I think I read about 15, 20 pages and I wasn't engaged in them, right? So you have to read the books which interest you, right? So I try and read quite a few books, and that's just to fill in the void and the gap of knowledge. But, it's so liberating, subhanAllah. You're a reader as well, right? It's so, sometimes I'll read mindset books. Sometimes, at the moment I'm reading one called Stealth War, right? How China taking over whilst America sleeps. Nothing to do with business, right? Nothing to do with Amazon. I just need a space where I can just kind of just read some stuff, right? And there's one, Asim Qureshi's written, I think the Something Obedient. So it's just, I will read books just for pleasure as well, but then I've got my business books as well. And then I put some Islamic text there as well, because, if we're going to be spending 10 hours a day reading, or 10 hours a week reading kind of secular books, we have to put the time in to read the Dini books as well. Like this, we have to, it's challenging, but we have to, so I try and keep a balance. If there's a couple of books I could recommend, if that's okay to kind of push those out there.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Any books or apps or any resources that you recommend? So, yeah. Okay,
cool. So in terms of the books, right, in terms of business mindset books, right, Mohammed, the first one, again, we mentioned is The Morning Miracle, right?
Yeah.
I think absolutely phenomenal book. Really, it's got some basic tips in there which can be life-changing if you implement them. And again, I'm the kind of person, Mohammed, that when I read something, I do it. So when it's said in that book, put your phone at the end of the room, that evening I threw my phone right at the corner of the room with the alarm on. Alhamdulillah, you can get up early, right? The second one I found really good was Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. Really good book, right? Richard Branson's a leader, someone who's a pioneer, and just reading his life and understanding the journey that he took, right? I found a lot of inspiration through that. And he's genuinely a nice person, right? The third book is the one that I found quite powerful, which is Alex Becker's The Pillars of Wealth. And I think that's a book which you kind of recommended to me. And I just found that, I resonated with that. I found that something which was really interesting. And the fourth one, in terms of from a business kind of mindset perspective, is the 4-Hour Work Week. Just to summarize the 4 books, so we have Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. There's The Pillars of Wealth, Alex Becker. There was the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, and the last one was The Morning Miracle. I read many more books, but they're the ones that I thought, just it touches a bit upon everything which people kind of need to know. And I have to really give justice to 3 more books, Mohammed. The first one is Enjoy Your Life by Sheikh Mohammed Arifi. I think I recommended you that book about a year back. I'm not sure if you read it.
I don't remember you recommending it to me, but yeah, I think that's... I've read bits of that book, by the way. I actually had a talk that I saw of his on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, a fantastic book about interpersonal skills and especially leadership. One of the best and the easiest reads that I've kind of come across when it comes to an English text from an Islamic perspective. The other book is In the Footsteps of the Prophet by Tariq Ramadan. So this is a seerah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it's not a typical seerah like the Seerah Nectar. It's one that it extracts elements from the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Tariq Ramadan does a phenomenal job of this. This was something which I went to Umrah with Sheikh Hasib Noor, and he said it's one of the best English books out there in the seerah. Amazing. It helps you in many aspects of your life. And the third one, by far one of the best books ever written in the English language, bro, is the Dua, Weapon of a Believer by Sheikh Yasir Qadhi. I mean, your whole life is just dua, right? When you're suffering in business, not very many people, if anyone, can really help you when you're on that. When you're down and you've been, kind of things aren't going well. Amazon have blocked a product. There's nothing you can do. Kind of but make dua, right? And that Sheikh Yasir's book is phenomenal. It takes out all the hocus pocus from dua and pure Quran and Sunnah. And every entrepreneur, this is advice to the brothers and sisters. You can tell when business probably isn't for you if you're not really doing if you should really continue or not. Is if you're not making more dua to Allah in the journey of being an entrepreneur, you're probably missing a trick somewhere, because you should always be doing shukr of Allah if it gives you success. If not, you should also be asking Allah to grant you further success, right? Keeping it sincere. There's so many du'as you can make. So if your relationship with Allah is not better once you're on this journey, you need to kind of take a back seat maybe and think, maybe this isn't for me, because if you're just hustling and relying upon your own efforts, you're missing a trick here. So they're the 3 books: Enjoy Your Life, In the Footsteps of the Prophet, Tariq Ramadan, and Dua by Sheikh Yasir Qadhi, The Weapon of the Believer. They're my top tip books, and I think if everyone reads them, you'll be in a good position just generally as an all-round person, really, to be honest.
Amazing, mashallah. So I think you've just set the record for the most number of books ever recommended on the show, mashallah, in one go.
Oh, okay.
So that's fantastic. I have 2 questions. One last one, but just before I ask you the last one, what I wanted to ask you is one thing maybe the viewers were watching and they were probably thinking it, but they didn't ask it, yeah? I think one of the big things you've kind of said, alhamdulillah, for your success is that you read something or you see something and then you act upon it, right? Where most people will have that YouTube mentality where they sit back and they watch it, right? And they might even, I know people, even myself, sometimes I've been through hours of video and not done any implementation or anything like that. Like, what's the secret to doing what you said, which is you hear something and it's like a little bit like you hear and you obey, like you go and do the action, right? What's kind of created that mindset? How is that kind of happened? How did you build that up?
Mohammed, I quite simply, I can see the benefit in doing the action there and then, right? Because whatever you do, you have to see a benefit in. And don't get me wrong, this isn't for everything that I hear, but if I hear something which that action will find me some benefit, I would do it straight away, right? Because a lot of the stuff you'll read is, it's a bit superficial, right? But the stuff that really matters, because in business, there's a few key things that you always have to do, right? No matter what, right? So a lot of that stuff you'll read about mindset, great, you kind of try and fix yourself, right? But when it impacts your daily operations in the business, in terms of at that point you're starting up the business, and it's about more operations and sustaining it. If I see value in the business, how good is it sitting there? And it's just going to take up a lot of mental energy to store it. I'll just go do it. It's off my mind and it's done, right? But it's something that I see benefit in. And that's probably something that I missed out, because not everything that you read is you're gonna find benefit in, right? So I always have a pen and paper to hand anyway, and I make notes anyway. So, it's a case of you won't be able to do everything there and then. It might just mean that you have to contact an agency or contact an individual to do it, but at least make a note of it. And that's an action in and of itself, right? And then you add that to your list to do, and then it moves on. So, it's sometimes not as black and white as doing it there and then. It could just be a case of making a prompt for yourself to follow up that prompt. But it takes a lot, it's probably, honestly, I think, you have to ask Allah as well to save us from laziness and procrastination, and to make us proactive. And, du'as are key for a lot of the stuff I do, because honestly, I'm nothing special, honestly. And, it's all because of Allah, right? I have so many failings, right? And any good stuff that comes out is stuff that is just, you always ask Allah, right, to help us, because it's difficult. But I think people make things a bit more difficult for themselves as well. We're in a culture now with things like, maybe like the Merciful Servant, it's 3-minute clips. You want a short kind of sidestep to get to where you need to get to. But, there's no kind of shortcut for success, to be honest, bro. It takes work and effort. There's one thing, Mohammed, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you don't mind, if time permits.
Yeah, I was going to say to you that my last question
when I first started on this...
My last question to you was going to be, is there any one topic that we haven't touched upon that you would like to touch upon or discuss as the last point? So that would be amazing. Okay,
cool. There's 3 small topics. Is that okay with you? Time permits?
Yeah, that's fine, bro. Bismillah.
It's just because the coffee shop's still open, bro. So we were just so the first point, Mohammed, is that when I started this journey, right, a lot of people, and every book that you read, they say that you have to fail before you see success. And honestly, that was very problematic. Very problematic to me. To this day, it still really aches me, because I saw no reason as to why we have to fail when you have Allah on your side. Now, let me add that caveat. It doesn't mean just because you have Allah with you, you're going to succeed in business, right? You're going to go up and down. But my point being was, I completely switched my mentality, and I was like, I will succeed. And if I don't, then Allah, right? And I think that's one thing I'll implore to people, is always set out with the hope of succeeding, because a believer is someone who's optimistic, right? We're not pessimistic, right? And we always hope to see that success, right? And we have that fear that we might not be successful. So I just want to give that advice, because almost every book and person you say that you've not succeeded until you failed. Yeah. And I was like, what? I was like, scratch that. I've had a lot of failures since, in terms of ups and downs, right? But that's part of the journey. But just the advice to the brothers and sisters is, go out there with the with the optimism that you will succeed, and you have Allah by your side. So, when you have Allah with you, how can you not succeed, right? It's kind of, it's you might have challenges, but basically just go out there with optimism. The second point, Mohammed, is just about giving back. I think a lot of us, especially we need to. Once we get to a certain stage, we need to give back, just to prompt people in terms of what they can do now. What I've started to do, Mohammed, is I work with a local university, so it's Birmingham Central University. We have a phenomenal support team and business school. So I'm basically like a consultant entrepreneur for them. I just do this for free, right? So I go in now in certain modules. So they have an entrepreneurial module. So I go in and give them a real life problem, and they have to come back with a solution. So based upon my experience in business, there's probably about 60 to 100 of them split across 5-6 groups. I've been doing this for 2 years now. I set the problem, and it's a real problem which I want to resolve in my business. They come up with a solution. I go back. I give them a few sessions over a few months. Then they do a presentation in front of me, and I just give them my time for free. So just for the brothers and sisters who might be watching this, who have some level of experience and expertise and success, it's time to give back. There's no 2 ways about it. You can give dawah in many forms. One of my intentions was that it's good for them to see someone that looks practicing as a Muslim. They don't know what's in my heart, kind of giving back. So I go there with the intention that they can see a Muslim, knowing that Muslims can succeed and Muslims can give back. So I've been doing that for a few years. So I might touch upon doing some lecturing for them as well, but that's something for the future. So it's just giving back, because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't see that aspect. I think we really need to, as Muslim entrepreneurs, give back much more to people, to be honest, because if Allah has blessed you, right, you need to kind of share some of those blessings. And I don't mean give money, right? Because as a Muslim entrepreneur, when I first started out, everyone has come up to me and saying, bro, yeah, give me a discount on your product, yeah, blah, blah, this. And, it's a bit infuriating because you spent like 6 months to a year working hard and all they want is a discount. Like, we as Muslims, we need to ship a boat, we need to support each other, right? Now I would never ask any brother for a discount on a product if he launched. I pay full price because I know the journey he's been through. So it's just advice to the guys out there, support those people that have businesses, because it's tough. It's tough when you kind of start out there. So give back. I mean, that's what I do with the university. If anyone wants to kind of contact me, I'm happy to give some contact details later. I can kind of speak to people, give them some ideas about what they can do to give back. If they're from Birmingham, I can hook them up with some people here. So just that give back. And thirdly is just about mental health in the space of being an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is general mental wellness. I think a lot of people, they kind of when they age of filters, right, where basically they'll talk about how great they are, how much success they've seen, but they don't mention the challenges. And I'll be really honest, being an entrepreneur, right, it's not for everyone. It's the most mentally fatiguing and draining thing I've done in my life. Many times I will go to sleep with a headache, and to be honest, I'm not sure where the headache is starting or where the headache's ending. I'm just kind of in a daze, right, because your logistics, your marketing, you're doing the customer services. For me, in the initial stages, I was doing everything. So I just want to say to the brothers and sisters that, be very careful when you go out on this journey, that you've got that foundation. What I mean by foundation, you've got some strong relationship with Allah, because, I'm going to be brutally honest, when it hits the fan, right, your mother, your wife, your son, your daughter, your friends, nobody can really help you that much. They can give you practical advice, right? But sometimes, it's that faith that kicks you back up. You have the bad days. So, really when you go into it, ensure you've got a strong relationship with Allah. And if not, then strengthen it along the way, because that's key. Because what? I've had some dark days and I've had some very light days, right? And the dark days, the only thing that gave me relief, Mohammed, was just speaking to Allah and saying, what? I don't know what to do, right? I'm stuck. I found some difficulties, challenges, help me. And it's that sweetness which will get you out of it. So I would say mentally prepare yourself to have a bit of a challenge. It's just I come to you because I know, alhamdulillah, you can help, you can support. And for me, that's part of that kind of mental awareness, knowing that I can kind of offload onto you, right? So I can get some solution back. So, just for the fact that we're Muslims, it doesn't mean that, kind of mentally, we're going to be an A-star game all the time. It's not the case. Really strengthen your relationship with Allah, and kind of support people in business, right? And now when I know someone says an entrepreneur, I know they're going to go through a lot of challenges, so I'll be there to kind of support them. But key thing is your dua, your dhikr, your Quran. That keeps that light burning inside, even when everything else around you is kind of kind of challenging. But that was it. Just these side 3 points. I know you probably didn't expect me to say 3 things, but that's just I just thought off the top of my head, because I know I'm just trying to give some honest feedback as to where I am in my journey, and it's been challenging, but it's definitely been worth it. Alhamdulillah.
Amazing. I love it, because obviously your intention is to help those that are watching, and to help them get there quicker and better and faster, and to get a good journey and stuff. So I love the fact that you're giving more advice. I don't mind that this is longer. Like I always say to everyone that's coming on the show, like, I don't mind if we go for like an hour and a half, or if we go 45 minutes. It's really up to you. So I love the kind of value you've given and stuff. So one of the things you kind of mentioned a lot of, Ali, and we'll kind of end on this, is like, it's still a journey, and you're still in a place in your journey and stuff. So what's kind of next for you? What's your plans for the foreseeable future and stuff?
Great question. So Mohammed, I've been doing the supplements game for about 3 years now. I think that I'm now looking for a much more. I'm looking for a new experience. So I'm in the process of basically trying to outline the next business that I'll start. Amazon was a great journey, but I want something more fulfilling now. And I know you're going to say, but you said you weren't fulfilled before, but you got, you always change. The goalposts are changing, right? So you don't have to kind of, you don't have to keep yourself locked up. Supplement stuff was great. It's automated. It's bringing in income, great. But I want to do something even better now. So I'm actually looking into the circular economy. And I know that probably means nothing to most of the people. But Sheikh Mohammad al-Sharif said in Nishiva, right, Mohammed? He said, when you do something, there's 2 elements to it, right? It has to be profitable. It has to be something which is beneficial, right? For the supplements, alhamdulillah, I thank Allah, Muhammad, right? Alhamdulillah, in the journey, I realized, right, that you know what, for every person that takes this supplement, if I'm kind of helping with one of the ailments, inshallah, I'll get rewarding if I have the right intention, right? So from an early stage, I managed to kind of rectify my intention. I was like, fantastic, right? It's awesome because, I have thousands of people that it's helped them with various ailments, right? Kind of arthritis, pain relief, and I hope for the reward of Allah. So my next project as well is about giving back more to the environment, saving waste. So inshallah, I'm trying to always do something which I can get double reward for and get money back. So it's an exciting project. It's going to take a long time. It's something new to me. It's a bit scary because I'm going out of my comfort zone again. But I found that when you stop growing, you'll kind of get bored, and then you'll just sit there and just trying to wait for the money to come in. And then there's going to come a day where the money stops, and then you're just going to sit there, and then there's not much else to do. So I'm in the process of trying to open another business and just try and keep this kind of experience and journey alive, inshallah.
Amazing, amazing. Ali, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for your time and all your wonderful advice. I know everyone watching was going to love it. I know everyone watching probably got massive value. And you basically played your part in then becoming better leaders and becoming better people as well. So, Jazakallah khair, bro.
Alhamdulillah. Fantastic.
Okay, brothers and sisters.
It's been amazing.
Great. Brothers and sisters, this is the Muslim CEO show. I hope you enjoyed the show. There's so much. I would actually watch this one again because there's so many different gems, mashallah, that Ali shared, and he kind of made the episode long, which is great, alhamdulillah. So just remember to subscribe to our channel. Of course, check out the free training that we've got at muslimceo.com, and inshallah I'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.